Yo, yo, yo. All right. Let's see what's going on. Let's let some people hop in here real quick before we get started. Drop this link in the Discord. All right. All right, peeps. Let me pull up this stream. All right. So tonight's gonna be a quick recap. I'm filling in for Air Drake Hasib. He's actually got COVID, so wishing him well, sending prayers and thoughts his way. I'm just gonna start with a recap real quick. I'm probably not gonna take too many questions. I have a fantasy draft I got to get to in about 15 minutes, so this is gonna be a quick 10-minute video. So first off, we'll start off with just SPY in general, the generic market here. We saw an interesting day. Let me go down to the 15-minute mark here. So we saw the day gap up in pre-market. We were up probably 40 to 50 basis points. Then we had some labor data come in. Very underwhelming, missed by almost 300,000 jobs in the labor department, which is very no bueno when it comes to employment statistics. So as you can see here on my chart, actually I'm just going to go to the 2-hour chart here. It's one of my favorites. This top resistance line we've had probably since, actually, yeah, back down to the March crash of this tremendous rising wedge on SPY here. You can see that we broke above it, and now we've actually bounced off of it once here, which is actually fairly interesting. And then today we actually bounced off of it twice. So, good evening, Izzy, by the way. So what's interesting is we're going to see how this trend is going to progress from here on out. Now, again, you can come here and trade, or you can chart out different trend lines here and make it work to your ability, obviously, but my trend line has basically been set, and I've just extended it and really haven't moved it at all to where it is now. So we're just going to continue to see how it impacts there. Let's go more intraday here. We saw the day gap up. We gapped up even more. Thought we were going to have a bullish day. Broke to all-time highs intraday, and then proceeded to regress back down. Nothing crazy there. Let's take a look at the VIX real quick. Let's go to the daily chart here. Still sitting at lows. We still, on the VIX-wise, have not gone to pre-pandemic lows, but if you notice on VXX, we have breached pre-pandemic lows. So the VXX is actually only short-term futures on the VIX, but the VIX itself, the fear gauge, is still not back down to pre-pandemic lows of about 11 to 12. So this was something interesting that I've noted. And then also here on some of these pairs that I have going on, SPY over TLT. So TLT is actually the Treasury. So let me go to that first, actually. It's the 20-year Treasury bond ETF. So you can see during the COVID crash here back in 2020, here's the 2020 crash, and then obviously in 2021, as yields started to spike back up, bond prices go down. That's why you're seeing this. Now you see yields retracing. So if I pull up the 10-year yield right here, you're going to notice roughly that is almost an inverse chart. Well, it's the same chart because ones are yields and ones are prices, but you get the gist here, right? So something that I've always kept interesting here is, as you see, let me go to the weekly chart on SPX. You've noticed here we've held this 9 EMA since we basically broke above it back in September. It touched it once in September, bounced back above, but there's really not been 2 consecutive closes on the weekly chart under 9 EMA. So the strength is still here. The trend is still going. Something else we can look at. Let me see if I can pull my Discord up. We'll go through the alerts that we had today. For those that have missed it, I have a fantasy draft here soon, so I'm trying to get this done while providing value to you guys. Let me know if you guys can see that. Obviously not. Nope, you can't. So anyways, if we go to the major flow, let me switch up what it's looking at here. Window capture. Let's see, Discord. All right. So, I don't know why that's not working. Anyways, so let me go back to, man, this is frustrating at times. I'm not gonna lie. So in the Discord, if you go to major flow and whatnot, we had a few. Let's see what we had today. We had some bearish puts on SPY for market flow. We also had, for major flow, we had a few come in today. We had 3 Apple rapid flows, and which was actually fairly interesting in the mornings if you take a look here. One of the things that's interesting here to see was Apple started gapping up major on open. Then you look at the 1 minute and it just fell off, right? So this right here is what I like to call institutional buying. Now, that's just based off my personal preference and what I've seen in the markets. But when something gaps up this hard at open, more times than not, it's just institutions that have their shares or have their orders already set. There's nothing you can do to get in or guess on. I mean, that's a freaking 2% move right there as is. From open to where it was, and that's a 1.5, almost 2% move there. So crazy move if you caught it from 150 to 154, but as you see throughout the rest of the day, continued back down. So it's continuing to try and break out. It finally broke out of this ascending triangle it had here, but it's kind of an ugly breakout if you ask me. Kind of breakout, reject, breakout, reject back. So interesting to see there. A few of the other things everybody are wanting to know. We have AMC. This is the daily here. Still waiting on this retrace. Now, it looks pretty good here from my perspective on the 1 hour. It's got this ascending triangle. Now, recently, those have been bearish, according to Avery. ATER has actually been a popular ticker recently. I watched this today. I think SIG played this on the breakout here. Retrace back up. It's highly shorted, but again, right there, you see an ascending triangle. BBIG. This is an interesting ticker. This is where I played most of mine. I saw the trend down here, popped up higher, continue to play it. I cut a lot of my exposure today in this just because I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but extended hours, I think it's down like 8%, so I'm feeling good about that. We'll see what happens when it opens up. BGFV, excuse me, is one of the ones that I told Tom about, and Tom alerted you guys to. Saw this pop up on the day here, saw this pop above the 200 EMA, the 9 and the 21 crossed the 200, so that's an EMA convergence, meaning it's very bullish trend movement, and then it's highly shorted, so that's a name to continue to watch out if it breaks all-time highs. We'll see. On the weekly here, you can see that it's continuing past the highs it set back in 2004, so you're over those major resistance levels. BLNK, another highly shorted names here. This is the name I should have played it this morning, FCUV. This is a name that popped out of nowhere. I was going to play it earlier. Let's see, the 1 minute chart on it is just crazy. It popped in the morning on some random news. I was going to hop in right around here about I forgot what it was, maybe $5-6, but it was overextended. And then you can tell, well, I mean, it's continued to be overextended, up 30% more after hours. Somebody asked for Myrna. Let me pull that up real quick. So mRNA, interesting here. It's got almost just a pennant going for it right now. If it breaks between either of these, I'm going to be sort of bearish on it. Well, excuse me. If it breaks up, I'm going to be bullish up until probably the 420 mark. If it breaks below and it holds below a 330, it can get pretty ugly because, I mean, it's run up pretty significantly, and it's going to come and test this 50 EMA here. Another one people are watching are Skills. That was an interesting ticker today. I almost got in, but there's too much hype around Skills, SKLZ. It's heavily shorted, but as you see, it's broken out here. Now, depending on how I draw my chart, we can say, oh, it hasn't broken out. It just rejected the channel, especially if I go to the weekly time zone or the time frame, excuse me. I can just claim that, look at that right there, right? Not a breakout. It's continuing to be bearish. We'll have to see what happens. Then obviously SPRT is everybody's best friend. I think Sig called this out. I'm going to be looking at this one tomorrow. Anywhere between 20 at a gap fill to $22, I'll be looking to get in. It's going to hold this downward channel, I think. Once it breaks above this, I'm actually going to add an alert for that right now. Once it adds an alert for that right there, or once it breaks above that, I believe I'm going to get in. We'll have to see. Mostly on the hourly here, you can see it broke this 50 EMA. I want to see if it can reclaim it. But obviously on the daily, it's just bounced off the 9 EMA here. So it's still looking pretty bullish. It's just consolidating. It's still 80 to 100% float short. So that can be an explosive move right there. Chewy, I think they had pretty bad earnings. I haven't actually checked, but I'm guessing a lot of you guys are actually in that. And I'm going to guess y'all were in calls and y'all are down about 8-9%. And then the last one I'll check on real quick before I have to go is TTCF, so Tattooed Chef. I've been watching this name actually. It's been a pretty good swing trade name. Being heavily shorted, it bounces up and people short it down, bounce it up, they short it down. Exactly what's happening. Now, depending upon how you draw your chart, I mean, I can draw it here and say it's not breaking out. I can draw it here. That's the problem with these low float names is you really don't know if they're breaking out. Not a lot of clean. You can see it's just highly erratic and illiquid movements here. So we're going to continue to watch this. It is heavily shorted. Short term, you can see it's got a pennant right here. So obviously it can break up and break out. But if you've noticed this run it has had, that's probably a 50% move. Let's see, yeah, 45% move right there. So it's going to need to retrace eventually. It did fill this gap here. Not saying it's going to retrace tomorrow, but we're going to continue to see. So PFE, okay, last one for real, and I got to go. The SENS pending FBA approval. I really don't know anything about SENS. I would ask somebody in the server that probably keeps up with it more. I don't keep up with smaller names like that. So PFE, I mean, obviously, it's bouncing off of these levels they put into the 2001.com bubble. We're going to continue to see what happens. Obviously, it's had a lot of erratic movements with the vaccine in the 2020, yada, yada, yada. But if you notice something here, this is the trend it was holding here in this channel. It finally did break out. It tried to bounce, and I want to see if it bounces here because you can claim like this was a better trend line there. So I want to see if it holds here. I mean, it's a pretty erratic name. So I mean, if you look at the retrace here, it's gonna probably come back down to the $40 mark eventually. Not saying it'd be now. And obviously, there's a lot of vaccine news that can change. And yes, one more. I was actually watching this name today. It's only got about 3% float short. Not really concerned with it right now. It does have a high cost to borrow, meaning it's very, very hard to short shares here. But it does have a nice chart. It has been continually going parabolic here, but I will be concerned that it is kind of maxing out what it's at now, because if you go back to the daily chart, it's actually hitting previous resistance over here. But there is a huge gap that it did fill, but I mean, a move up to $17 is not out of the equation. There just needs to be more events or more catalysts that need to happen for me to get into it. So yep. All right, guys. Well, that's a quick recap. Sorry, I was really quick. I had to cover for Air Drake, so definitely send him some messages, send him some support, send him some love. He's struggling with COVID right now and trying to beat it. Last I heard, he was almost fainting and trying to get better. But so just send him some positive love, some prayers. And again, we'll check back with you tomorrow. Everybody have a great trading day tomorrow. On my watch list tomorrow, I'm going to be watching FCUM. There's only shares on that one. I'm kind of getting more into small caps and things. But BBIG, of course, any ATER, as well as Neuro. I actually entered a position today in Neuro. It's heavily shorted too, about 20 to 30% high cost to borrow. It's hitting its 0.786 retrace on its recent bullish movement into a falling wedge here. At the end of the day, you can tell it's starting to kind of creep out of there. It's hard to see. Let me see if I can move that over, and you can see it's starting to creep out. So we're going to see what happens tomorrow. No promises, but I hope everybody's having a great night. I hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you tomorrow.